All right, good evening, everyone. I apologize, we are running a little late, but tonight is Tuesday, October 19th, and this is the Avon Grove Charter Board working session. We do have a quorum. We are going to call the meeting to order. I apologize. You're an echo. So we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's behind us tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. If everyone will recite the mission statement: to inspire passion for lifelong learning, one student at a time. And hello, you want to do the roll call?
Dwayne Degler.
Here.
Stacy Barnum.
Here.
Michelle McCray.
Here.
Deji Akintoy.
Here.
Talia Byron. Brian Ladman.
Here.
Colleen Preston.
Here.
And Eugene Stecker.
Here. Excellent. Thank you very much. We're going to move right ahead. We're going to plow right ahead to Ms. Bishop. Are you handling ESSERs or is?
Yeah, actually brought Jen Weaver here today.
Yeah.
So the first slide here I have is the 4 pillars. So you've seen this at your board training, but we have 4 pillars to strategic planning. Sorry there, Andy. And it's rigorous teaching and learning. It's supporting all learners. It's building community and modernizing facility and systems. So what we're focusing on, you've seen this slide before, but it's the rigorous teaching and learning. Next slide. And there was one bullet of something we're working on, which is ESSER's funding. So learning gain programs, ESSER's funding, the additional interventionist and summer programs. So Jen is here to talk about what the group has been talking about funding this way and parent feedback, just so you can get a glance on where we are right now in that. So take it away, Jen.
Jen, you may need to come up here or they won't hear you.
The mics are these on the table.
More than welcome to sit.
Yeah, right next to me or.
Okay.
Sure. It's just weird to sit like right.
Oh, they want to see.
Okay, take it to me. Okay. So yeah, you've probably heard ESSERs, the term ESSERs come through either through Donna or, through your conversations, but it's been the flow of money that we've been fortunate enough to receive from the federal government to support learning recovery over the past year and a half or so. So ARP, or American Recovery Plan ESSER, is kind of like ESSERS 3. We've gotten money for ESSERS 1, ESSERS 2. Now we're up to ESSERS 3, or otherwise known as ARP ESSER. And this, according to the government, is our last allotment of money that we'll be receiving to support any sort of COVID efforts. So as you can see, the ARP allocation, a little over $2 million. Unlike ESSERS 1 and 2, there are a lot more stipulations around what the money should be spent on. ESSERS 1 was extremely broad. ESSERS 2, some parameters, but ARP ESSERS a lot, and understandably so. So as you can see, of that $2 million, right off of that, 20% has to address learning loss to vulnerable populations. So our students that are having significant needs. And that equates to roughly $400,000 that it just addressed on learning loss. And then the remaining of that you can do as you choose. We also have another bucket of money outside of that $2 million, which is the ARP ESSER set aside. So about a month ago, we got an email one day saying, oh, there's more money coming your way. It's called the ARP ESSER set aside. So it's another $100,000 or so that's addressing learning loss, but of that $114,000, 30% needs to go to social emotional supports for students. 10% has to go to social emotional support, professional development for staff, 8% reading. And then on top of that, we have an allocation for summer school and after school programming. So as you can see, they're very specific about has to go to summer, has to go to after school, has to go to SEL. So we are scheduled to submit our application, or our narrative is what they call it, to Charter Choices on November 3rd. So as a team, we've been looking at how we could best use this money. And part of that was asking for stakeholder input. So you may have seen the survey come through. I think some of you also completed it. So the survey that was sent out about 3 weeks ago we got roughly 100 responses, and you can see just the breakdown of people that responded. So majority are families of AGCS, and then the next largest portion is teachers. And then we have small pieces of the pie of other subgroups. So it was nice to see a student on there.
That is
I'm
nice.
happy to see that. One, but we got one. Okay. All right. So there were kind of two parts to the survey. One listed all of these pieces here, and it basically just asked, what do you feel as a stakeholder the highest needs are, the highest priorities that we should focus on with this ARP ESSER money, and kind of pick out the ones you think are most important. You could pick up to 5, so that's why you see numbers that equate more than 100. And then the largest response there, I think it was around 57 or so responses, was implement key components of reading and math. And then the next highest priorities, as suggested by our stakeholders, was additional instructional staff to support some of our subgroups, and then deliver interventions in small groups, which you would need those people to usually deliver those interventions. So that was the breakdown. We did have some people write in some suggestions, and I would say a lot of the write-ins, like there was an other piece here, and then they could fill in what they wanted, was trauma-informed professional development for the staff. That was one that came up multiple times from the other category. And then the others were a lot of one-offs, but could pretty much tie back to one of the areas that was listed in the survey.
Any questions so far about survey or money allocations? No.
Is it a use it or lose it?
We'll use it.
Yeah, we'll use it.
Right, Donna?
Yeah.
Lose it isn't in there.
Yeah, lose it is not an option.
Not an option for us. Yes. Not often you get this gift.
Yeah.
So we're going to use it.
We'll use it.
Yeah. So I just wanted to show you guys, the board and the community, kind of what we were thinking in terms of staffing, programming, and resources and spending this money. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but it's a bulk of what we're doing. I know for me, again, we've been fortunate to have ESSER 1 and 2 money come through, and some other grant money as well. But my biggest concern from the beginning was the sustainability, right? So you have all this money and you're putting great resources into place, but come September 2024, it all goes away. So I wanted to be very careful, and I think all of us in having these conversations are, okay, we're putting these things in place, but we have to think long-term. Is it something we're okay with removing if our general budget can't sustain it in a couple of years? Or are we going to shift priorities, or whatever the case may be? So I tried to break down here for you kind of what we've allocated money towards from ESSERs 1 and 2 that we want to continue paying through ARP ESSERs. So that's 3 interventionists. So we initially had them on for this school year, 2 at Kimblesville, 1 over here, reading interventionist. And through ESSERs 3, we're going to extend another year. So we've got the rest of this year and then next year, all 3 of those interventionists. The social worker as well, which is new this year. So we have another year of extension of paying salary and benefits. And then the summer academy that we ran last year, we can allocate money for the next 2 summers to support that program, which is amazing, right? Yeah, initially I was like, okay, if we can squeak 1 out, it'd be great. But after talking about it, we can get a second year out of it. So I love that. Then in terms of programming, so Panorama, which I think you probably had talked about or heard Ryan talk about, it compiles a lot of our data. For us, it's a pretty expensive program, but extremely valuable, and saved us a lot of time and spreadsheets and number crunching during COVID. We were able to just click a few buttons and got so much data on our students. So we allocated funds to another year extension. So it's already paid this year, but another year. Spring Math, which is one of the best math interventions I've ever come across. And we saw some great strides last year in math with, just with the hybrid setting. So we're excited to extend that for 2 more years. And then the summer academy programming as well. Resources, talking points, I'll talk a little bit about more later what that actually is, but a 2-year extension to that. Then on the bottom row there, you can see some of the new allocations. So looking at Keystone remediation tutors.
So we talked about the last board retreat, what kinds of standardized testing our high school needs to pathway through to graduate. And we did have kids that are struggling and failed the Keystones and have another opportunity, but we want to provide tutoring so that they have an opportunity to pass.
And that'll take place during the school day as well. After school math tutors. So again, math, especially in the middle and into high school grades, we want to put some more remediation support in there because we've noticed from our data last year and a little bit into this year, math got hit pretty hard because, there was very skill-based,
And
right?
switching teachers too.
Yeah.
which was tough.
So not having those skills and having to backfill, it's a little more challenging we found in math than ELA. So putting a lot of time, energy, and supports in place for math, especially in those middle grades. And then in terms of our English language learners, looking at strengthening the vocabulary portion of our programming, and then after school tutoring as well. In terms of materials. Then, as you can see, the professional development under resources. So math professional development for the staff, trauma informed, again, that came from the survey. It's not something I'd initially thought about, but it was interesting to see so much feedback from the stakeholder survey that we wanted to allocate funds towards that. And then the big piece there is the after school tutoring and transportation. So as we all know, transportation is a challenge for us because it's not ours and we can't control it and it's very expensive. So we said if we want the after school math tutoring to be successful, we have to find a way to offer transportation. So we're ironing out some of the details now and costs and timing and what that looks like. But I'm very optimistic that that's something we'll be able to pull off. But again, it can only happen because of the money coming through our ESSERs. There's no way we could have afforded it, probably another way, or something else would have been sacrificed as a result. So I look forward to hopefully coming back soon and giving you an update on that
So,
piece, which is nice.
so Jen's here with the perspective of the academics and the allocations for the academics. There's been meetings with facilities, with Donna, along with Brian, literal about our ventilation, our replacement of air conditioning and our units. And so we're trying to showcase the things we have to do, what we're doing for the learning portion of where it's allocated. And then, like I said, there won't ever be leftover money. There's a lot of facility needs for replacement of units and ventilation. And so anything that doesn't fall in these allocations of learning will then fall into those kinds of purchases that Donna has already allocated for too. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else, Donna? Is there anything you wanted to add?
So yeah, so I didn't know if you guys had any sort of suggestions or input or questions about some of the proposed expenditures here.
Just a question of mine, what does the trauma, like the informed trauma training for teachers, what does that involve exactly? What does that plan look like for teachers?
That's what we would have to explore, right? So we would have to find most likely an outside person coming in who's well-trained. Because I think you can all agree that the pandemic hit everybody in different ways. And our adults as well, right? So I think some work needs to be done with just our staff collectively, right? We got to help ourselves before we can help others. So not only helping us, but what are some best practices and ways in which we can support kids who may be in crisis, because they all show it in different ways. And sometimes the kids that are acting out, right, are the ones we notice, but there's a lot of kids who also internalize trauma. And we need to be more skilled at what that looks like, because in our educational background, that is not something that we're ever taught. So bringing in professionals. But I think some work needs to get done in terms of who that is and who's coming in, because it's a slippery slope sometimes when you bring in outside presenters, because you want to make sure their message is meshing with, our values and what we stand for and what we'd like to see happen. So yeah, I don't have an exact person or resource, but
The number one
yeah.
thing I'm hearing is depression and anxiety. Those are the number one thing that I'm hearing consistently, what teachers are asking for help and how to deal with that in their classroom and how to support kids. So that was something that I heard being targeted as a specific need. So as they explore, I know that's something they're going to target first.
The analyst, forgive me, the analyst let me ask the question, is that the real what, right? Is that what parents were going after when they put trauma in there?
Right.
So any additional questions asked of parents to sort of determine what were they really talking about when they said trauma training for teachers?
No, but I think that's something that can definitely be explored, as to what people are truly looking at. It was very surface level. I would say the responses that I did get.
Where you would
About
get
that.
that information though is that panorama.
Mhm.
So when the kids are filling their self-evaluation or teachers are evaluating them based on their mental health in the classroom, you're getting a good picture from the data perspective of it, where kids are struggling the most. Would you agree?
Yeah, from an individual perspective. Yeah.
For my student, yeah.
Thanks.
I think, I guess my question surrounds, you talked about transportation, which we know we're in a transportation crisis
Yeah.
with just getting kids to school. We've been fortunate, but we know that that's an existing challenge. Are we looking at exploring, vans and having more small type of transportation? Do we have concerns about how we're going to potentially fill that?
We were,
Mhm.
but we have them.
Mhm.
We have them. The only caveat is you have to get the last drop off of a trans, which we don't need it right away because they're staying after school. So the first time they can get here is 4:15. So it would just have to be an extension of a service that we're giving here. So if it's 2:30 to 4:15, maybe there's a snack built in or something like
Yeah.
that. But they did say they had at least 2 buses available for us to do. And
Yeah.
it would have to be a 4:15 pickup.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and we want to be smart about it too. We want to be able to group kids maybe by district so that, we only maybe need 1 or 2 buses on a day. Like if kids come maybe 2 days a week, 2 days are allocated to these districts, 2 days allocated to these districts, and then, manipulate the transportation routes and schedules. So
What I thought was-
it is effective.
What I thought was interesting in the survey was that some of the parents put, they don't want anything after school. They want interventionists and so forth built into the school day because they don't want to be after school. And I don't know if that's sports related or they didn't want the longer school day, not quite sure. And we won't know after we target specific kids to come, how many would actually come.
Mhm.
But I thought that was interesting in the survey that that's not something parents are necessarily looking for, but we know it's a need because there's just not enough time in the school day to give kids their individual attention that they need.
Any other questions? I think it's great, Jen. I mean, just focusing on the core subjects which they all fell behind on is awesome.
Right.
So great.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Jen.
you. All right,
All right.
just moving along.
Yep. The only other thing I wanted to talk about quickly was the upper school building project. So this is getting really exciting. Both our strategic planning committee and our finance committee met specifically about talking about the beginning phases of this project, what it would look like. We're just exploring with the finance committee. There's going to be a report out of what the process is going to be with Donna and myself and the bond. And then strategic planning was more of a really creative, fun, exciting meeting where there was a lot of conversation about, what the classrooms would look like, what the teachers would want. We gave them some examples of open classroom concepts and, garage doors versus windows. So it was really exciting just to have some of those initial conversations. In that conversation, I know Donna and I have talked about with Brian and different administrative team members about the STEM modular being right around the block of needing to be replaced, right? And so part of the conversation with the architects have been, let's just make sure when we're putting a building in that we put it in where we can add an addition because we're going to need to do that. But after some deliberation with the finance committee and with Donna, there was a conversation of right after this is going to be done, it's going to be very quickly where that new addition would need to come and we would need to ask for money and for permission and the township and all of those things all over again. And so it's easier to do it in one project. And I think, Deji, you even said that's the first question you would ask as a bond analyzed. I don't know exactly what you do with the bonds, but I'm assuming.
The first question, just so the first question I would ask if I was someone who was interested in buying a bond would be, hey, like, is there something that is going to be a high expense that will be coming up in the future that would impact this and would force me to reconsider my options? So, yeah.
Right. So I did call the architect and we are going to add that phase onto the plan. And obviously that would be a conversation along with Donna and the board and the bond. But I wanted to make sure as these committees were talking and we were adding, there was an understanding in this work session, if there were questions or any kind of discussion that you wanted to do as we kind of move forward in these committees And we talked to architects about adding that extra phase, because when Jared came out initially, that's not something that he had said. Now, I can tell you, the science teachers are ecstatic about the possibility. And if you ask, which is very interesting, Jen Weaver just put out there's a teaching and learning Facebook page for the teachers. And the question was, if you had one dream, what would it be? And all the science teachers were like, real science classrooms with sinks and equipment that we need for. And so we were like, well, maybe this is going to happen. And they were like, so we talked about having a meeting with the architect and ask about what's your dream of a classroom, of what that would look like. And their minds are like, this is what we've been waiting for. So they are, and I don't know if you know, that modular has had a lot of issues. So it is something that they're really excited about being included in this initial project. There is some conversation around what will we do if we have to move the STEM. Jared did say if that's on the table, that there is some kind of dimensions that he would like to look at, removing that STEM modular altogether. And is there somewhere we could displace them for a year as they were building on there? So that's something that I'm sure we'll talk about in a work session as we go forward with this, but that's start of the preliminary conversation of how that can look and work. I just wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to listen to some of that preliminary conversation, because it's kind of leading down a path.
Sounds like a good path.
How much time is left on the STEM building, release on the STEM building module?
So 7 years, Donna, you said?
Like we're in our 9th year, it's a 20-year lease.
20-year lease. Yeah.
So if the building is 3 to 4 years, year 12 or 13, and then it would be 7 years later. And it was a used modular, that's all that we could afford at that time. So I would imagine that it's going to be similar to the condition that 300 and 400 modulars are in when it gets to like the 20-year term.
That's a good point about the bond, though. And today's cost versus 5 years cost.
And it is nice to have someone on the board that has some of that experience.
Yes.
That's why, Michelle, I asked you, because I was like, wait, do we have another person with bond experience? So that's
Awesome.
great. Mhm.
Okay. Cool. Is there any other questions about that? If you want to see what the images look like for the classrooms, please check out the recorded video. They're very cool. We'll move along.
For parents to look at?
Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
YouTube. Yeah.
Jared will have printouts soon. Like now that we added the science thing, I'm sure there's a little wrench in the timeline, but he is working pretty hard. So as soon as that's available, it will be on our website and all that stuff.
Donna, policies?
Policy.
You're going to have to come up here so they hear you.
Okay, so we have a lot of policies that we're going to be looking at tonight. The first slate of policies are policies that were issued to the board in September for the 30-day review. So we are looking for an approval on the new program policies, the comprehensive planning and annual report, the academic standards, curriculum, review of instructional materials by parents, guardians, and students, exemption from instruction, the adoption of the planned instruction. And then once these policies are approved, then we will be rescinding 2 older AGCS policies, one being the curriculum development policy, as well as the evaluation of the educational program policy. So those policies are up for approval this evening. And for the next 30-day review, we have some additional policies, also part of the program module. That would be lesson planning, textbooks and resource materials, instructional supplies, field trips, extracurricular activities, assessment systems. So those will be presented to the board for their 30-day review and consideration to approve at the November 16th public board meeting. If those policies are approved, then we have some additional older AGCS policies that will need to be rescinded. And they are lesson plans, field trip policy and guidelines, guidelines for extracurricular programs, and then that's it.
Thank you, Donna. They'll be on the board meeting. All right. Before we go to adjourn, before the 7 o'clock board meeting, anyone have any final comments or updates?
Can we take 30 seconds in silence for Colin Powell, please?
Sure. All right, is there anything else? Any other committee or
You want to
update?
talk about the board
The board meeting.
at the board meeting? Okay.
Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So Wayne, Stacy Barnall, I'll make a motion to adjourn the board working session.
Do I have a second?
A second, Colleen Preston.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All right, we will be back at 7 PM. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Avon Grove Charter School board meeting for October 19th, Tuesday. We're going to begin. We have a quorum. We'll call it to order. If everyone will join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, excuse our backs, the flag's back here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We did have an executive session tonight to discuss the personnel matter. If everyone would recite the mission statement. Inspire passion for lifelong learning, one student at a time. Roll call, please.
Dwayne Zeigler,
Here.
Stacy Barnum,
Here.
Michelle McCray,
Here.
Deji Akintoy,
Here.
Julia Byram, Brian Ladman,
Here.
Colleen Preston,
Here.
and Eugene Stecker.
Thank you. I hope everyone got to review the minutes for the board working session as of September 21st. If there's any questions or comments, please let me know. Otherwise, is there a motion to approve the minutes from September 21st for the board working session?
I'll
Right.
motion.
Go for it.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second Brian Ladman.
Awesome. Thank you, Stacy and Brian.
Michelle.
Michelle, I apologize. Sorry, Michelle. Any comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So moved, approved. Thank you. Moving along, the approval of the board minutes from the same night, September 21st. Any questions or comments, please let me know. But if not, I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes for the public board meeting on September 21st, 2021.
Jolene, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 21st, 2021 public board meeting. Stacy Barno.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Thank you, Colleen. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Thank you very much. Student enrollment, substituting for the
I will announce it.
missing Brian Bruto.
There we go. All right. So our total count is 1915 and the budget count is 1891. The bottom, we have a healthy waiting list at 272.
Nice. Very good. Very good. Brian, we hope you're enjoying Disney. All right. Moving right along, it does not look like our student is here.
I know. She did send in her presentation, so she intended to be
I
here.
wonder if she's confused on the time.
We simply moved it till 7 o'clock. So what
We
we'll
can
do,
push her
we'll
back.
push it back. So if she gets here, we will definitely let her speak.
Okay.
Moving along, do we have any public comment? No public comment. Thank you very much. Don't have public. We're going to move to the board committee. I would just like to bring up that we did have a board member who did resign due to personal issues. So we wanted to discuss. I think we're going to, my suggestion is we begin that search for our 2 open slots in March, April to move forward to replace them in the spring, summer timeframe. But I wanted to open up any discussions or questions or thoughts.
I thought one of the things we had suggested too is that if anyone has an interest in being a board member, that they start to attend some of our board meetings and get a flavor of what's going on and what the board is trying to accomplish.
And it's a great suggestion. If you are interested, I do recommend you attend our meetings. It really is informative and help get you up to speed. Thank you, Eugene. Great. Any other comments? Anyone have any other feelings?
I feel that we have a total of 7, so that currently meets the needs of voting, and that we consider, again, the process in the springtime when we, called applicants as well as members to participate in that board search. And just echoing Mr. Steger and people coming out to see the meetings or watching them as they are live streamed to really get a feel of what the board does and the activities that take place.
Great. Thank you very much.
Dwayne, do we have enough representation on that committee that the board member was serving on?
Yes, I'm on the strategic committee. Yeah.
So do we have enough representation?
We could add, No, we can ask, anyone can join. So if anyone else, Eugene's the alternate, so he's on that as well. So, all right, if there's no other discussion, we will move forward. Finance Planning Committee, Deji.
Well, the person treasurer's report.
Thank you. Facilities, Brian.
All right, thank you. So we met on October 11th. The minutes are available on board docs and have been distributed. So if anybody has any questions, you can let me know. Basically, we talked a little bit about ventilation. Boilers are up and running, and so we are in boiler season, obviously. Ventilation systems have been worked on, and they will soon be balanced at the ELC. And so all seems to be going well there. Dare I say, they're starting to prepare for snow. So it is something that is coming also. We talked a little bit about the ELC parking lot project. And so those details can be found in the board minutes.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Human Resource Committee, Stacy.
Yeah, so the Human Resources and Quest team met on Monday, October 4th. So that is the Quest group, when we refer to that, represents the teachers, instructional staff here at the school. So there are two representatives along with our HR director and personnel director, Tasha Bowers, along with Colleen Preston and myself. So, there was some discussion and dialogue about the dress code for staff members. Human Resources, Tasha shared that the Supplemental Activity Action Planning Committee had its first meeting scheduled, which was the following day. And that was really exciting to really start to look at that information. There was just some updates regarding staff who have reported being vaccinated versus unvaccinated. The school is still looking for direction from OSHA regarding any further direction about staff members and the requirement of vaccinations are being tested weekly. Tasha will share later on in the agenda the hires and terminations on the HR agenda. And they are still interviewing for several positions, but overall the school is in a strong position with hiring and retaining staff with positions being replaced. So Tasha will share that information during her report.
Great, thank you. For the strategic planning, the bulk of the meeting was discussing, and we will get some updates on that if you didn't see the working session, but of the new building, there was a lot of discussion of what the classroom rooms will look like, just broad thinking out of the box, whether it's garage doors for main entrances to kind of open up, a lot of open spaces and hallways. It's really exciting, and there's a lot more coming on that. So stay tuned. It is really an exciting project. So. All right, head of school, professional development update.
All right, before I get into that, I'm actually going to introduce Chrissy Simpkins.
Oh, great.
So this is Chrissy. Chrissy, you want to say a few things? Tell them a little bit about yourself?
Unfortunately, Chrissy.
You might have to come up here because the mics are on the table. I'm sorry. Sorry, Chrissy. I aim to please.
Where do you want me to?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, wherever.
So good evening. My name's Chrissy Simpkins. I'm the new Safety and Security Coordinator. I'm a shared resource between the school district and the charter. I come from the intermediate unit, but my background, I worked with Chester County Department of Emergency Services for 20 years. Started in the DA's office and went to emergency services. Worked my way through there, through EMS and over to emergency management, where I worked with all of the schools in the county for their safety plans. Any of their needs, training, drills, emergency plans, strengthening partnerships with local responders. It's a large umbrella, but I'm looking forward to working with the district, you guys, and just anything that you need that pops up. Local in the county. I grew up in Westchester. I live in Delaware now, but I am from Westchester. I graduated from Henderson, but I have roots in the county, but I am looking forward to working with all of you.
So Chrissy was a resource prior, obviously, to her getting the job and being this partnership between Avon Grove School District and the charter school. And what I love about this position is that we've always said when it comes to kids' safety, it doesn't matter where they go to school. It should still be the same protocols for police officers, firefighters, who are coming to any emergency at any school. So Chrissy's going to bridge that gap. And I'm confident that she can do that. She's already worked on grants for us, and she is continuing to impress me with her knowledge and has been a great resource since the beginning. So I'm very excited to have her. Very excited.
Yes, looking forward to building some consistency for sure. So, yep.
Is there any questions for Chrissy? Just as you get to meet her? No.
No,
All right.
welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chrissy. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Anytime.
So, okay, professional development. Jen's going to talk a little bit. We just talked at the working session about our instructional goals, and another one of those goals is our professional development plan. We're going to ask for approval tonight of our comprehensive plan, and our professional development plan is a part of that. So we wanted to touch briefly on how we come up with what we offer teachers as part of training. So Jen, do you want to?
So like Kristen said, we submit our school-wide professional development plan with every new cycle of the comp plan being submitted or approval. But I think it's important to note that we've tried very hard the past several years to align our professional development with our larger strategic and comprehensive goals. So much so that even on our in-service days, it's a massive schedule between the two buildings and divisions and kind of meeting everyone's needs. Usually it's like 4 pages long, 5 pages long. But even there, we try and tease out and show our staff where the professional development we're offering lines up with the bigger picture in terms of strategic and comp plan goals. So this is just a snapshot. I peeled out a couple pieces from the October in-service schedule that just kind of shows you some of the alignment there. So there's this social emotional work that you can see that staff was working on some surveying and doing some collaborative work. PD in terms of our frameworks, our curricular frameworks, that's part of our ongoing goals. And then we've got small groups and class-wide intervention, which falls into professional development, also using the data to make informed decisions about instruction. So I just want to show you that there's like connection and it's all coordinated.
There's goals, and then we feed the goals into the training of the teacher. So it's, you see all the connections.
Thank you.
Yep. And then just coming up are our parent-teacher conferences. And I have to say, like, you know, there's a lot of negative that surrounds COVID and the shutdown and everything we had to go through the past year and a half, 2 years. But I think a lot of good things did come out of it, and we're trying to find the good things that we learned through those experiences. And one of those is parent-teacher conferences. So we did have to do them all online last year via Zoom, which was good. And I think it allowed for greater participation and it allowed for more flexibility for families to attend that may not be able to physically come to the buildings during conference times or just didn't feel comfortable coming. So it was a very good use of time. So we really wanted to make sure that was a piece of our parent-teacher conferences moving forward. So in the end of November, I think it's the 22nd, 23rd, I believe are the in-service, the parent-teacher conference days. We're going to offer families the option of Zooming or coming in, whichever fits their needs. So they'll sign up like they typically do through PTC Fast, but there'll be an option just noting whether or not they want in person or via Zoom. And what else came out of last year's conferences was just the collaborative piece of things. So if you look, there's a graphic organizer. It's a little difficult to see, but on the far right there. So at the elementary level, we had teachers complete the graphic organizer, and there's 4 components of a student ahead of the parent-teacher conference. Then during conferences, they would go through the graphic organizer and their notes with the families, and then families would add to it. So we really wanted to show that the input from the families is just as important as anything that our staff could share about their children. And then they set a little goal for the spring. So when they met at parent-teacher conferences again in the spring, they can follow up on their goal. But I was really proud of that what came out of that with the teachers and the principals really working through it, because they wanted to really make it collaborative and not just a one-sided conversation. And in addition to that is really supporting our non-English speaking families into all facets of our school. And we don't have a lot of people here who are bilingual, so it can definitely be a challenge. However, we have around 100 students who on their home language survey through enrollment have noted that they prefer their communication in a language other than English. So there's like 99 said Spanish, one said Mandarin, and third one, it'll come to me. There's one more. I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. We've been working hard to bring in an interpreter during parent-teacher conferences. So the past 3 years, we've brought in Maria Diego. She's actually a community member and knows a lot of the families and knows multiple generations of these families and is bilingual. So she, prior to COVID, would come to the schools, come to our both buildings and translate during parent-teacher conferences with us. And that was huge. And then during COVID, she was able to Zoom in during the conferences as well. So I was really proud of that coordination, the effort. It's a massive undertaking. And then through all of last year, we also came across a resource called Talking Points. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's there's a free component of it, but we actually have a paid component, as you saw through ESSER's money. But the original intent was to have a seamless way of communicating with non-English speaking families in a way that kind of meets their needs and meets them in the way in which they want to be communicated. So it really works through an app on your phone. There's also a desktop version. So let's say you're a Spanish speaking family and you want to communicate with the school and I'm the teacher. I can go on the app and I can either type a message, I can record a message, upload documents, do a whole host of things in English, send it to her, and it automatically translates into the language she selects. In this case, Spanish. She can respond in Spanish, and then it translates it when it comes back to me. So I played around with it a little bit last year, very surface level, just a handful of families. And then this year, like I said, we purchased the school license, a portion of the school license, and I used it to communicate to families about parent-teacher conferences, just putting out there, hey, would you need an interpreter? Just wanted to, get some feedback. I want to make sure I know who I need to schedule conferences for.
And now Jen's scheduling
And now
conferences for
I'm
the rest of
upset.
her week.
Yeah, no. But it's been great because the number has almost tripled, the number of families that from that 100, students prior to COVID and using Talking Points, it was like 20 families. Now we're up to like 50, 60 of those students who request an interpreter. So it's a good thing, right? That I was able to communicate them and it came right to their phone, came either via text message or the app that they have, and they were able to respond instantaneously. I had parents responding within 2 minutes that yes, I need an interpreter.
Everybody's response to text.
Yeah, and just to compare, like last year, without using Talking Points, everything was through email or through Language Line, which is third party translating, and it would take weeks and weeks to get the response, which was minimal. And now within 24 hours, I was getting a whole host of response and other questions too, which was kind of cool about other things.
So now we're going to take it a step further
Now we're gonna
because
take it
Jen and
further.
I are in a class together and we've been talking about this. Nobody's opening up our Blackboard information. You can see how many people actually open that. And then they'll say, we didn't get any information on this event, that event, this event. And we'll say, oh, we emailed it every week, but you're not clicking on the information. And so we talked to a couple of other districts that are using it, and they're using it not just for their bilingual families, but the teachers are using it and the administration is using it as communication to parents. So if there's something coming up like the board meeting tonight, we could send out a global text to the entire community that goes out and says, tune into the board meeting. And we hope that in some of this transition that helps some of the communication barriers with people opening up documents or, checking the website and things like that. So we're going to try to even take it to another step. I actually told the PTO about it and they're very excited. They're expecting a text soon. And I told them we're working on it. Jen loves that because she's now scheduling conferences and now she realizes that 1,900 people will be getting a text.
Yeah. We can isolate some groups.
Jen, I have a question.
Sure.
Is there consideration for sharing, the graphic organizer, I think is a great way to communicate with parents and sort of what to expect at a conference.
Mhm.
I think often, especially new parents or what you think a conference is for,
Yeah.
typically it's only if my student's doing X or Y really well or not. I think it might be helpful to find a way to communicate that, just so they know. You also have people who are better prepared coming. So I think you have a sort of, obviously you're talking about your child, but a really targeted way.
Mhm.
And for some people, I think a tool gives them an idea of what to expect and they can participate in a more meaningful way. So if there's a way to, I think, share that for.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. Yeah, because we were looking at it, I guess, more one-sided, right, what we're able to provide. But I think there is a lot of value in giving people or parents time to process that information because, it's a short amount of time, 15, maybe 20 minutes, right? So I think that's great. I think we can absolutely do that.
Anybody else have any questions for Jen about professional development or conferences?
I think the only thing I wanted to add on the previous slide, there's a statement of a PLC. Can you share with the bigger group what a PLC
Oh, yeah, I'm
is?
sorry.
I know it is just based
Yeah.
on how I work outside of
There
here,
you go.
but I think it's important because they're really valuable.
Yeah,
for
so
learning.
they're personal learning communities is what it stands for. And you guys probably know too, but there's been a lot of research that shows just that stand and deliver professional development is not your most effective way of getting people to grow and to learn. So personal learning communities are smaller groups of people that can learn from one another, is really much more valuable. And I would like to think the teachers feel the same way than, us just getting up there and talking at them.
We always tell them you get what you put into it.
Yeah. So, and you can look very different in different settings and different intents. Some PLCs, the goal is driven by that group of people. They get to decide what they want to learn and how they want to go about it, and the goal setting and the accountability piece of it. We structured ours a little bit more this year. With upper school working on grading and reporting, because that's been a big initiative that's been ongoing for them for a couple of years. And there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in that realm. So we thought PLCs was a better route because we don't have a lot of time, with after school meetings, staff meetings and all of that, but we have PLCs once a month. So we thought we could keep the momentum going through PLC work with grading and reporting, and elementary is working on math instruction. So instructional practices relating to math.
Thank you.
Yeah, once a month after school.
Any other questions?
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next thing on there is the legislative update. So for those of you that don't know, we were in the Daily Local for the Coatesville Area School District situation. We did have a budget reconciliation. We received funding from the school district from the previous school year, and we believe that our kids deserve the same funding that the school districts of residents, school district students received. And so they disagree. This went to court. We already won. It's already done. And now it's starting another school year and we have the same issue. So anybody that wants to know anything about this case, this situation, all the nitty gritty details are on our website for any community member, board member that wants to follow. But I wanted to make sure I brought that up. There's a legislative visit that just happened, which was really exciting. You see Mr. Fennell, and we were representing Representative Nelson's office, which, is an office that doesn't know a lot about charter schools. He came up, Donna had interaction with him, and he said, can I come? And I think we had a great day and a great meeting. We went to both schools, and I think he left a lot more knowledgeable about how we're funded, what we do here, and extended an olive branch to have more visits. And I think that anytime we have a legislative visit, it's a positive thing for the school. Do you want to add anything, Donna?
No, but he has been in touch for additional information, and so he's really engaged. And it was one of those visits where you can see the eyes open, and it was just really nice to see a lot of really good questions and a lot of discovery. So it was a great day.
And then there is a public comment period that just happened. It was till yesterday, Monday, October 18th, for proposed regulation. It was charter school and cyber school related. I did find that it was tended to speak more on a cyber school's behalf. A lot of the things we already do. Some of the things was about regulation transparency. I mean, we have all of those about charter school admission lottery. We make that public. We have all of that. Charter application process is where it gets a little nitty gritty because we have an application process. We have charter renewal. It works for us. But if they make a global process that doesn't work for us or another school, it becomes more involved. So we don't necessarily love that piece of it. And then it was about benefits and having comparable benefits. Obviously, we want to have comparable benefits, but to be dictated what kind of benefits, it can make a big impact in our budget. Most of the things though they were asking for it was transparency. And I can tell you that everything that I saw that way, we do. So I don't know where it will land since public comment is now over, but it is something that was out there. Anything else, Donna, you want to put in there?
Yeah, like Kristen said, a lot of it we already do. This is to memorialize it. The issues that I see and I have concerns with is that the language is very broad. It's not defined. It should be defined at a later date. And that could be very problematic for a lot of schools. For example, our charter renewal this year it's very straightforward. We know exactly what we need to provide. It is reasonable. It is within the realm of what the district should be looking at. Whereas you have other charter schools that are asked for, they could fill up 10 banker boxes full of information and they start preparing for their charter renewal for 18 months. These regulations give the authorizer the ability to do that. So when they're talking about a more uniform regulated process, that's great, but they're turning the power or the creation of that over to the authorizer with no guidelines. So as much as we're all doing it and what we're doing works very well for us, there are a lot of schools out there that don't have that luxury, and they spend anywhere from 12 to 18 months preparing for their charter renewal, and sometimes the boxes aren't even open. So it's a good idea. It's already in place. They should just be a little bit more transparent about what their plan is and what the guidelines would be for all charter schools instead of leaving it so broad and up to individual school districts to determine what those reporting or those renewal applications are.
Any questions about that?
No, good job.
So student community events, this is the most exciting slide for me. We had multiple vaccination clinics, not here at our school, but at all the different district schools. So that was available to parents and continues to be. We also have a thriving sports program right now. Spirit Week and Homecoming. Mr. Arders is actually putting out a Color Wars video on Friday. The kids saw it, and I can tell you it makes our school look bad. We are, I mean, in a good way.
Oh. We're looking bad.
Yeah, like it makes us look really great. I mean, the kids had such a good time and they ruled it. So that was bad choice of words. Erase that from the minutes. And then as far as the homecoming, it was actually here in the collaboratory, which was nice. There was outside space and the front space. The Honey Harvest, National Honor Society, Tri-M. I saw the fire trucks at Campbellsville. This is huge. This is joy. This is what school is all about. And I love seeing this part. So I am so happy to be back in school. I know the administrative team, the teachers are happy to see kids back in school. It's a transition to see us go through a period of time during a pandemic and transition kids into school. But what I'm seeing when these events happen, our kids are excited. I've never seen them so excited about going to a homecoming dance because they haven't had it. So this is really good stuff, really good stuff. And then last but not least, we're still doing really well in niche, whatever you want to call it. We have debates over how you pronounce that, but I'm going to say niche. We were out of 119 charter schools in Pennsylvania. We are number 4 in the middle school, number 5 in the elementary school, and number 6 in the high school, 76.
All right,
And then
that
5 in
deserves a round.
So this is really exciting. We're going to advertise that too to the parents so that they can see that, you know, we are well regarded out in the community, and that's all everybody's hard work that plays into that. So very good job. And that's it for me. I did see Lily's here, so we can go back up to her report.
You have the comprehensive plan to approve that.
Oh, so sorry. That's right. I'm sorry. One more thing.
One more thing, real quick.
So comprehensive plan is attached to board docs along with the draft of the induction plan, professional development plan, comprehensive plan. So I need a motion to approve the AGCS comprehensive plan, induction plan, and professional education plan as presented.
So do we have a motion to approve the 3 plans as just stated?
So moved.
Jean, do I have a second?
No, I have a question.
Okay,
Yeah.
you may ask.
It's not a substantive issue. Some of I think it was in all three plans. Some of the names of
Yeah,
that,
when they were originally,
That's what
it
I
was
thought.
pre-COVID, so you had to put who was on the original
the
team.
original one.
So I noticed that too, and that was, it's just because it was the original team that was submitted and there was a time period that was extended. So that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a great question.
Yeah, good question.
All
I
right,
have
so
it too.
Jean motioned. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Deji. Any other further comment or question? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Okay.
All opposed? So moved. So now we can move on.
Lily, we started 7,
So Lily.
just to update.
Yeah,
I know,
Update you.
a little embarrassed when I came in.
Don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed. I can talk my way out of time anytime.
so Lily, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. So I have our October student activity here. We start off with student council. So to expand on what Ms. Bishop said, we had homecoming here and we also had Color Wars here as usual. There were a lot of key differences in the two events this year. Color Wars was, instead of separate games on the field, it was all together. So even though the classes are separated by their colors and their grades, everyone was working together and playing together and all participating together. Homecoming was held here. There was over 100 more people in attendance than there was 2 years ago at the Red Clay Room. And we believe this was partially due to larger class sizes, obviously, but we also think that there was greater attendance due to ticket prices, as tickets were $15 less than they've been in previous years. Some other key points of homecoming, we opted this year for a court that was not king, queen, prince, princess. We just did homecoming royalty to be able to include non-binary people, non-binary students, and students regardless of their gender. Good win.
And were you on that court?
Yes. Otherwise, or other than that, I think people were a lot more comfortable with having an outside area than being stuffed in the Red Clay Room. So I think that made a lot more people more comfortable to come than they would be normally. One of my favorite parts of homecoming was how many small businesses we got to support. We used Savannah's 10-11 fries, 22 barbecue, and then something sweets LLC in Oxford. So we had cupcakes and then 2 food trucks that students could choose from. So coming up, we have a possible collaboration with Leo Club for their canned food drive, which I'll get to later in their slide as well. Student council has 26 members currently with 9 new members from last year. Next, we have NHS and Tri-M. NHS currently has 18 members with 8 new inductees this year. They are volunteering every couple of weeks at Project Cure, and they're doing some sort of fall fundraiser, possibly selling concessions at the fall play. Tri-M has 27 current members with 17 new inductees, and their first coffee house will be held next week. Next, we have academic competition. Academic competition currently has 24 members with 8 new members from last year, and they attended their first match against Oxford last week. Some matches during this season have been turned to scrimmages because some teams have had to quit for various reasons. So last week was also against Great Valley, but they had to drop.
Did we win?
Sorry?
Did we win?
Well, so they're taking an average of all our other scores to use for that one because they didn't really think it was fair to have a winner for just 2 teams versus the usual 3.
Okay.
Next, we have the annual honey harvest. So just to, again, expand on what Ms. Bishop said, that was held October 15th. There was over 450 students in attendance, and they collected over 100 pounds of honey. They will be selling that honey for a donation of $10 per jar once they get it all processed and packaged. And the beekeeping team includes Miss Crystal Otterwald, Miss Sweeney, Alyssa Arscott, Billy Bedsole, Julia Bishop, Grace Degler, and Alex Trumpson.
And if you didn't see the video, it's really great. So, yeah.
Next, we have Leo Club with Miss Lindenbaum as the advisor. And like I said earlier, they have a canned food drive in the pipeline for this year. And they're working on different ways to increase engagement in that. DECA is next. They have 22 members with 24 new members this year. And they attended a mock competition last Friday. where all the new members got to see kind of what competition is like, since last year, obviously nothing was the same as it usually is. Next, we have Business Club, which Miss Fees will be the advisor this year, and they're looking to produce a product based on student interest. So I think they're talking about snacks at the moment, that obviously healthy choices that students can purchase, and they can also learn a bit about the business world. There's a lot of members from DECA that are in Business Club to see a real world application of that. Amnesty International I have next. Mrs. Serino is the advisor, and this club is, if you don't know, based on the worldwide movement of more than 10 million people campaigning to end the abuses of human rights. Next, we have this trio, which aren't actually related, but I thought they went well on the slide together. Movie Watching Club, which is Mr. Pennell's the advisor, and each week the students choose a movie to focus on, and then they all watch it in their free time and get together to talk about it. Book Club kind of works the same way. Miss Daniel's the advisor of that, and they spend a little more than a week reading the book, but they all decide together on a book that they want to read, and then they discuss at a later date. Board Game and Video Game Club actually held their interest meeting today. Mr. Hastagen is their advisor, and it's basically just a club designed around the appreciation and playing of various games. So they introduce each other to games, or they play games that they all like. Pretty much just a fun way to get together. Next, I have Envirothon, Science Fair, and Alpha Mu Theta. These are all still kicking off. Mr. Stone is the advisor for Envirothon. Mrs. Abernathy and Mrs. Connor are doing Alpha Mu Theta, which is a music or math honor society based on students who enjoy and excel at math. And Mrs. Richardson is doing the Science Fair. Next, I have athletics. For our fall sports, our volleyball team is currently 8-6, and they're tied for 4th place in the Mid-Atlantic Intermediate League. The soccer is currently 4-6, and they're also in 4th place in the league. And cross country, all the teams have won at least one game, one meet, with the total record being 4-10-4. And 4 runners are currently capable of bringing home the cross country MVP. And this year, winter sports will be kicking off soon. And that's all I have.
Thank
Thank you for having me.
Anyone have any questions for Lynn? No. Thank you for
Thanks,
coming.
Lily.
Thank you.
And it will be 7 o'clock moving forward, just so you know. Sorry about that.
Thanks.
All right, moving along. Where are we here? Oh, treasurer's report.
Thank you. It's another long one, so forgive me. All right, item number 1, AGCS financial statement approval. Fiscal period ending June 30th, 2021 financial statements. Based on the administration's review of the audited financial statements as presented, administration is recommending the June 2021 financials be presented to the Board of Trustees for consideration to approve. The AGCS administration is requesting the board approve the financial statements as presented under the consent agenda. The 2021 July, August, and September financial statements will be presented at the November board meeting. Number 2, the 2021 September funds activity and vendor billing reports. The committee reviewed the 2021 September funds activity report, the vendor billing report, and the September check register. Administration is requesting the board approve the 2021 September funds activity report, the vendor billing report, and the September check register as presented under the consent agenda. Number 3, cash position as of October 15th, 2021. The school's cash position is reported as very good. Our sending school districts monthly payments are current. That is a good thing. Number 4, AGCS 2020-2021 fiscal year audit. AGCS engaged Barbara Kane Thornton and Company LLC to perform the 2020-2021 fiscal year audit. The audit field work was completed in early September with no findings reported. All year-end journal entries have been received and entered in QuickBooks. The 2020-2021 fiscal year is officially closed in the QuickBooks accounting system. The fiscal year entries will be entered into the intact accounting system, and the business office will finalize the data system transition in the coming weeks. The audited statements will be reviewed and discussed with the finance committee meeting and then formally presented to the board. as prepared by Barbara King Thornton and Company LLC with a recommendation to approve at the November board meeting. Copies of the audit will be provided to the board prior to the November board meeting. 5, the PDE 2057 annual financial report. PDE 2057 annual financial report, electronic filing due October 31st, 2021. This report will be completed once the audit draft is finalized. Copies will be provided to the Finance Committee prior to the electronic submission to the PDE. Number 6, AGCS, long-term facilities planning, modular replacements. The business office has been in contact with the school's bond council to review all options regarding financing a facilities space solutions for the State Road campus modular units set to be replaced or removed in approximately 3 to 4 years. Bob Cohen, Riley Riker will be reviewing the school's 2017 bond loan and trust agreement to confirm all financial options available to the AGCS, as well as projected timelines required for AGCS to move through the multiple stages required to secure financing. A memo will be made available to the administration and the board by the first week in November. Number 7, the AGCS Business Office Sage Intact Accounting Database System transition update. The business office continues to move through the financial transition phase for the Sage Intact accounting system. The day-to-day data entry process is moving along well. There have been some efficiencies identified and employed. The expectation is that greater process efficiencies will be implemented as the office staff become more familiar with the system. Intense report development training is planned to begin the week of October 18th. Once the essential financial reports have been completed, the business office will be fully transitioned to Intact and the dual system entry will end. The business office will continue to provide updates to the Finance Committee and the board as we continue to move forward in this process. All right, 3 more to go. Number 8, annual 2021 bond public disclosure, updated Appendix A. The annual public disclosure document, AGCS Appendix A, is required by the bond trustee, was discussed. This report is due on November 30th, 2021. Once the audit and certificates are received, the annual Appendix A report will be finalized. The report will be submitted to all board members prior to our annual filing date, scheduled for November 29th, 2021. AGCS board members and administration are required to update their biographies for our investors, and email requests will be emailed to all later this week. All right, number 9, miscellaneous business office items. Electric energy supplier agreement renewal. The business office and the facilities manager have been working very closely with Peter Johnston from Elite Energy to secure the best rate available for our upcoming energy supply contract renewal. There have been significant increases to the electric rates over the last several months. Based on the additional rates increase projected, AGCS has been advised to renew the agreement at this time to secure the best marketing rate possible. Our account was put out for bid and a 24-month contract was returned to AGCS by 3 Point Energy Solutions with a supply rate of 0.7189 for a 24-month period. Our current rate is 0.05975. The contract will commence on January 1, 2022. The contract has been reviewed and is consistent with previous renewals executed over the last 10 years. Based on the completed renewal and the school's ability to secure an adequate rate, administration is recommending the board approve the renewal contract as presented. So I need a motion to authorize the business administrator the ability to execute the 3 Point Energy Solutions electricity supply agreement for the period covering January 1, 2022 through January 1, 2024 as presented.
Deji, can I just make one clarification just for the audience listening? The proposed new rate is 0.07189 versus the current rate of 0.05975.
What did I say?
0.7. That was a huge increase. I just want to make sure that it's a big difference. So the new rate is 0.0718.
Yes. Thank you for the clarification.
I'll make a motion to approve.
So I just had one question. Are we being directed to look at the 2-year rate, meaning they're not expecting this blip to be short term?
Yeah, so I'll have Donna jump in, but my understanding is that we're not being directed to look at the 2-year rate. We're trying to find the best rate possible. And so what we're trying to do with the guidance of this organization is to make sure that we pick the best rate possible, at least in the short term, that gives us the opportunity to reevaluate at another period of time. So we don't want to be locked in for too long, where we wouldn't have the ability to renegotiate depending if rates were to decrease. Is that fair assessment?
Yes, we were in a similar situation on 2011 to 2013. So we had opted to go with the 24-month term so that as the rates started to go down, we would realize some cost savings. So unfortunately, this is the first time since that time that the rates have gone up. So we've done very, very well with this program, and we've always gone to market and done well. So, but it's universal, and we did get a very good rate. Some of the rates that they were projecting and that we were looking at for later this year could have been at 0.084, 0.087. So by going to market now, we're still able to realize not such a hit. This is almost a 9% increase over last year, but we budgeted for a 10% increase. So we're still in a good spot.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you. You have a second.
I'll second Stacy Barno.
Any additional questions or comments? None? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, last but not least, can I have a motion to approve the business office consent agenda as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Dwayne Degler, can I have a second?
I'll second Brian Ladman.
Brian Ladman, any questions or comments? None? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, DJ.
Thank you, Deji. Very good. All right. Tasha. We always love Tasha. Come on up.
I strategically sat here and said, so, hear me.
All right.
Okay, so the consent agenda is as follows. Resignation, we received 2. Liz Cologne from State Road Cafeteria Associate, effective October 6th, and Caitlin Walls, interventionist, effective October 21st. We did not have any retirements or releases. We have 3 leaves. Nicole Burns, FMLA, effective October 4th. Bridget Hannon returned from leave October 11th, and Amanda McKenna returned from leave on October 18th. We had 2 professional additions to our payroll. Very exciting to share that Kevin Fitzpatrick, computer tech multimedia instructor, started effective October 18th yesterday. Very great gentleman, so excited to have him start. And Mark Miller, secondary assistant principal, and he will start effective December 6th. Did not have any support staff, nor contracted vendors or seasonal staff hired.
I have someone on the support staff listed.
Do I have someone that's under support staff? Oh, I'm sorry.
Transfer.
Yeah, support, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. Kirsten Hunter. So Kirsten was the cafeteria aide. She's replacing Liz Cologne, which leaves Kirsten position open. And the internal transfer took place yesterday, October 18th. Thank you for that. So again, no contracted vendors or seasonal staff. So administration is recommending the approval of the staffing changes provided within the personnel consent agenda, specifically items listed from 8A through 8I.
Do I have a motion to approve the staffing changes provided in the personnel consent agenda 8A through 8I?
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel recommendations consent agenda 8A through 8I. Stacy Barno.
Do I have a second?
Yep, I'll second.
Thank you, Colleen Preston. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you, Tasha. All right. We're on the home stretch, people. Donna, policies.
Donna, yeah, Jerry said it was hard to hear when you were talking.
All right, so the policies were reviewed at the working session. And for this meeting, we do have actionable items. So for the policies that administration is recommending the board approve, there has been a 30-day review period. We have the comprehensive planning and annual report, the academic standards, the curriculum, review of instructional materials by parents, guardians, and students, exemption from instruction, adoption of planned instruction, and lesson plans. So administration is requesting the board motion to approve those policies as presented at the 30-day review. Also, I did not receive any questions or inquiries about the policies.
Were there any questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve policy 1000, 1002, 1005, 1005.1, 1005.2, and 1007, along with the 2021 policy review summary update working documents?
I'll motion Michelle McCray.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second Stacy Barno.
Any final questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Okay, and with the approval of those new updated policies, administration is requesting the board rescind 2 older AGCS policies. The first one is curricular development policy, and the second is evaluation of educational programming policy.
So do I have a motion to retire or rescind the curriculum development policy and the evaluation of education program policy?
So moved.
Thank you, Eugene. Do I have a second?
I'll second Colleen Preston.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Actually, I have a little bit more. So tonight presented to the board at the working session are our policies for the first review. And that's policies are listed as text, book, and resource materials, instructional supplies, field trips, extracurricular activities, and assessment systems. So those have been provided to the board members for their 30-day review. Any questions or inquiries should be forwarded to the business office, and we'll send it to the appropriate person. Should the board decide to approve those policies at the November 16th board meeting, we will be looking to rescind 3 older AGCS policies. And those policies are lesson plans, field trips, and extracurricular programs. And that's it.
Thank you, Don. All right, moving along. Any final comments from the school directors, principals, head of school?
Nope.
No, great. Any other final comments from the board committees? No. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I would look to for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Easy, I can carry on motion.
Thank you, Deji. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Colleen. If there's nothing else, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. We'll look forward to seeing everyone next month at 7.